to make sure to stop Argentine aggression whenever it came to any of them. Argentina's new strongman leader, Juan Domingo, received formal recognition of Argentine claims from the Reich. The aftermath of the Snipe War. Not all have given up on aftermath. Not all have given up on the Snipe War. In the oh my goodness, I need to drink water. That's what it is. I can't get my throat away. I need to drink some more water.
Need some Wawa.
Leon was talking about me stealing his water, but he stole my water.
Need some Wawa.
Need that Wawa. I was wondering what time you're gonna get back to.
Whatever.
Okay. I was planning on making spaghetti tonight, so because I actually know where the stuff's at now.
Make you some spaghetti, bro.
But I was wondering if you wanted any, so I was gonna.
I mean, I don't like just make it, put it away. If there's some there, and I get hungry for it, I'll eat it.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, do you mix it all together, or do you keep the sauce and the noodles separate?
Sauce and the noodles separate. Don't you put it in together at the end?
Well, normally, like, some people just mix it all together and have it in a big pot of just spaghetti, and then you just take it out. Some people, like, I like mine where the spaghetti's cooked and the sauce is cooked, and then I put my own, because I don't like a shitload of sauce. So, that way I can kind of control what I got.
That makes sense.
What I got.
But not all have given up on the dream of restoring Chilean Antarctica to its God-given place in the sun. Professor Julio Eguardo, the newly appointed lead administrator, plots from his base in Aruto Prat to revive the Institute's fortunes. On one hand, he has appointed his close confidant and Socialist Party member, Carlos Jakisic, to get the territory's finances in order and recognize what little the Argentines have left with them. Another has commissioned the veteran diplomats Marcelo Mora Miranda and Equade Gallardo Viralo to launch a diplomatic blitz across the Organization of American States to increase international recognition of Chilean Antarctic claims, bringing the might of the free world to bear against their foes. Meanwhile, Captain Marino, the hero of Snipe, has been placed in charge of the territory's defense, where he plots the moment to take his final revenge against the Argentine interlopers and the cowards and traitors who he believes aided them. Onwards.
You said cowards and shitters?
Traitors.
Oh, I think it's cowards and shitters. It's like those shitters that betrayed them? No.
Oh, I gotta do this stupid minigame again. I hate this stupid The Boogeyman of Higgins. As First Lieutenant Woldrich oversaw his man's morning exercises, two figures emerged out of the corner of his eye. Captain Marino and his new advisor, Luis Danus Covin, inspecting the soldier's progress, the mere sight of normally aloof Marino joining his men in the courtyard rather than on the observation tower, a case of something of a shock to Marino, looked mildly uncomfortable, trudging through the snow when compared to the upright, unstoppable march of the new underling. Much had changed once Covian had arrived, just as the darkness of winter was beginning to consume all. Covian emerged from the icy June storm to herald a new era for all in the base. Who knew? Ash and snow. The axe slid cleanly out of the fracture on the door. It glimmered as the Marine swung open. Pieces of smoldering wood tumbled back as the crevice split open. Captain Marino stepped forth and delivered a direct kick. It crumpled upon contact, Forward, men, he signaled to the Marines behind him, stepping through the pile of ash that had been at the door. Above them was a cobweb of twisted metal and wood beams. The twilight cast through the glass. Gashes and furies in the snow blew in. The embers of fire still snaked through the charred walls. The first body was in the corner, a crouching figure with torn skin covered in tattered rags that once was a jacket. Its single arm reached out, nails clawing into the wall, with fat and muscle contracted within thin muscles everywhere. Marino stared down at the first Chilean he had met on Aladade Island. Clouds of ash surrounded the captain as he stumbled over the mounds of blackened snow. Entangled arms and legs reached around him, piles of bodies all grasping desperately towards an exit. They were nearly indistinguishable from the soot marks on their labyrinthian halls, except for the faint reddish marks of charred skin and pearly white teeth and gaping mouths. Each mangled head was counted. Most of the inhabitants of Aladade Island died here, stumbling and crawling over each other in the dark as their lungs filled with smoke. Reno grit his teeth as his boot sank into something soft. There was a rip and a dull squelch. Everything below his ankle was draped in darkness. The ashen bones of a rib cage engaged his foot. Burnt flesh crunched as he dislodged himself out of the corpse's chest. The flashlights of the Marines watched past Marino's face, pale as it could be, and into the wide common area ahead. More bodies piled together in the corners of the room. Some did not even have shabby remains of clothes. The fire had caught them asleep, unprepared, yet another bore less pronounced burns. They limp across the floor or reposed against a wall, not like the twisted agony of those in the hall, almost relaxed. Were they drunk? Had they accepted their fate? Marino wouldn't accept it. Men, stop gawking and pick up bodies. We need to take a closer look. Now. A mutilated base. Marino's gloved hands slipped into his pockets. He worked his jaw, a face without ears or mouth, a hand without fingers. The captain tilted his head, glaring at the gray box half buried in the snow across the ruined main facility of Adelaide Island, a radio building identical to any other across the territory, except for the missing tower. He and the pair of Marines circled the building, rifles drawn. They kicked around the mounds, hoping to find something. Radio mats had been risen all over Antarctica, but they wouldn't be possible to live here without a radio. So why did Adelaide's crew sever their own ears? The first word in Menino's mind. But who knows, maybe it was insanity. Or communist infiltrators? Argentine saboteurs? Both? Marino scoffed as they stepped into the charred hall. Neither would be competent enough. Perhaps the crew's minds were rotten by suicidal Bolshevist fantasies. He promised himself to find the truth. Entering the communications room, a chair flipped over for a radio operator, long dead. Table broken, half blackened, transmitters and receivers fallen in pile. Exposed wiring spilling out like tangled entrails. One truth that had already been set before Marino. They never had a chance to call for help. They died too soon. The captain's elbow, walking along the beach of Aladade Island. Captain Marino could feel a change in the air, though the differences were subtle between different degrees of freezing. To one attuned as to the Arctic as he, it was undeniable that summer was arriving. Whatever occurred here was no accident. That had been clear to him since the stepping of the foot on the island. However, gosh, my throat hurts so bad, had attempted to make this flimsy cover-up, had grossly underestimated him. He'll find it out. He will find it out. No matter what, nothing could stand in his way. Winnick. I'm happy to see you're busy, Carlos, Guzman said as he and Jessic were seated in Guzman's office. At Aroto Pratt, Jessic had been away from Antarctica for a few months, searching for a means to rectify their budget issue in Punta Aires. It's a very interesting proposal, and potentially a very profitable one, but we must confer with the scientists. He was interrupted by the drone of his desk phone. He picked it up. Guzman here. This is command control for the airfield. Captain Marino has just landed. He wasn't scheduled. He's on his way to you now. The office door flew open, and Marino, red-faced, stood on the threshold. Guzman hastily hung up the phone. This is unexcusable. Marino said. Detestable ignoramus. Fucking foul. He threw a handful of photos on the desk. The troglodyte Argentine scum have committed murder and didn't allow us the decency of a burial. Our boys didn't have long-distance radios and couldn't call for help. They died cold and alone. The color drained from Guzman's face as Marino grew incandescent. The photos described an Argentine flag flying over Winnick Island, which before the winter had been held by Chile. Are you saying the Argentinians killed our garrison on the island? Killed them, probably dumped them in the ocean, and burned the outposts to the ground. All that remains is their unsightly rag. We should strike back. Guzman stood up. You know as well as I do, and we're in no position to do that. Merlino looked back at Jacek with revulsion. And whose fault is that? Pissing socialists, I won't let this stand. Captain, you will stand out on once. The world may forget Wicket, said Marino, but I will not. Our men will be avenged. Avenged, and we will win. Bup, bup, bup. This land is our land. As the final arguments were presented and the last objections were politely dismissed, a tense silence settled over the OAS chamber. Chile was trying to get their land recognized in the Antarctic after lobbying the government, the OAS, which is a organization to help all of the American guys together. We proceed to the vote on the resolution of recognizing the historical and legal grounds for the Republic of Chile's claims. Murmur went on. So they were like, why should we even do this? But there's a bunch of yeses and nos. Who knows what could happen? The vote took an eternity, but at long last, the chairman raised his gavel for the final time. Based on the results of the vote, the resolution is adopted. Subdued applause broke out in the chamber. Miranda and Verquel exchanged a quick glance, heavy with relief, a victory, a quiet diplomatic victory, but no less monumentous. I think, Enrique, we deserve a pisco and a sour tonight, and maybe even two, just for us. The Washington Consensus, an utterly unacceptable precedent. This was after they showed what happened at Adelaide Island. The Colombian delegate's voice rang with righteous indignation, echoing off the high ceilings of the OAS chamber. If we allow one member of this organization to invade the territory of another with impunity, then what is the meaning of our charters, our agreements, everything? It makes no sense. There better not even be an alliance at this point. I beg your pardon, Mr. Ambassador, but would you recognize the Chilean Antarctic territory? What ambiguity is there? It's theirs. They got invaded and it's theirs. And I think there might need to be some reparations in order. Then this whole order can be settled properly. Point of no return. The gentle rocking of the Captain Pratt was barely noticeable in Marino's cramped cabin, which served as a makeshift investigation chamber. Spread across the small chart table under the glare of an overhead bulb lay the grim harvest of the Adelaide Island, photos of the charred habitat, and the disturbingly varied states of the corpses reports on the body recovered from the sea. It's undeniable proof the patch of the dead Argentine soldier. Marino, Wunderlich, and Kovian stood hunched over the evidence. Finally, things clicking together, the horrifying pictures. It was obviously the Argentines. Those vermin slaughtered our men like livestock. He slammed his fist down, making his items jump. Attack resistance casualties. Then the cover-up. Those cowards burned the evidence, defiled the dead. His gaze hardened. And Guzman, that lily-livered freaking paper-pushing back at Aruto base. He knew. He received fragmented reports, ignored warnings. He let those Argentine scum attack us. Attack Chileans. On Chilean soldiers on Chilean soil, and covered their tracks. The accusation hung in a confined space. The final insult, unforgivable after many years of perceived mismanagement and disregard for the military role. He straightened up slowly. He knew what he had to do. He knew. He's gonna try to overthrow the government in Antarctic. Pistols at dawn. Guzman leaned back in his chair in triumph as Jacek sang the sweet melody of their quarterly yearnings. It was finally coming together. He'd inherited a disordered, broken, and barely functional base, on the verge of complete and total collapse. Within, without, he thought he might not even have his own wit and determination with him, but he was able to pull it off. all with his own might. His report on the whaling hull lured to believe he might not even need extra money from that. But there was soldiers breathing down his neck over and over. Who knows what they might do? Guzman sat up and grabbed his coat. Chasik dutifully followed his lead, quickly scrambling below the desk. Guzman produced a key, unlocking a metal box contained within a single pristine pistol, loaded and unused. Tucking into his coat, Guzman marched out the door. He was followed by a procession of men, soldiers and civilians alike. Years ago, this whole scheme of rebellion would have gone off without so much as a protest from the residents. But they had seen Guzman's master plan and how he fights for them, and he would not let this all end. They would meet him at dawn. E2, Marine? Lowering his gun, the Marine approached the two men. Wunderlich's boots crunched on the slush, his breath fogging as Marino's order, "Detain this man immediately," rang in his ears. Guzman's smile held steady and calm. Memory surged, Marino's orders, rebels' screams, atrocities he'd abetted. No more. His grip shifted as he spun around his rifle, snapping up, barrel trained on Marino's chest. "Stand down, Captain," he said, in a voice low but firm. "This ends here." Marino's eyes bulged, rage igniting like a flare. "You treacherous shit-guzzling weasel! Kovian, arrest this worm at once!" His hands shaking like a madman, spittle flying in the air. The Marines behind him faltered, rifles wavering. Kovian stepped forward, his mask a face of ice, his voice cutting sharp. "Koviet, Captain, please reconsider. This is a mutiny. Treason!" But Wunderlich held firm. Gaze looked on Marino. Marino is the only traitor here. He swore an oath to this Constitution, as I did, as we all did. "Move, or I shoot." The Marines hesitated, then slowly, barrels swung over towards Marino's. Kovian's jaw clenched, loyalty warring with survival, until at least he turned his gun too on the captain. Roared, a beast, unhinged. "You gutless pox dogs! I'll rip your spines out, you Argentine-loving scum! I'm Chile's savior!" His voice cracked and his eyes twitched as he lunged forward, only to freeze under a dozen muzzles. Guzman exhaled, stepping back. "Enough whining, Captain. Stand down." Wunderlich's hands trembled, but his aim didn't. Order restored to all. A man can dream. The creak of an old chair was the only sound that broke the silence in Guzman's office. The storm had subsided, and a serene, cold beauty stretched out beyond the window. In such rare moments of the quiet, when the intermediate crisis receded, Guzman allowed himself to look beyond tomorrow. He looked at the lights of Aruto Pratt Base and saw not what was, but what could be. What if the temporary modules and barracks finally became a complete picture? In his mind's eye, the outlines of the base shifted and changed, giving way to permanent structures, new streets, and scientific laboratories. He could almost hear the hum of generators powering a true Chilean settlement, wrestled from the continent's icy grip, a place where one could not only survive, but thrive. And should it be all in there, his gaze drifted further, beyond the base, towards the horizon. There were now only a white void. His imagination painted new flags fluttering alongside the Chilean one. One in his dream, Chilean Antarctica became a welcoming home for all nations of Latin America, seeking the peaceful exploration for the last continent. And all of this would be fueled not by pitiful handouts from distant Santiago. Oh no. Guzman saw this as a bustling port where an entire fleet of whaling and fishing vessels were moored. New processing stations sprang up along the coast, and the acrid smell of whale oil mixed with the salt wind. He hoped one day, when their dream had taken root in the ice, they could find another way, a path that did not demand such a bloody tribute from the depths. The vision faded, and suddenly it appeared. He was back in his office. Was this possible? For the first time in a long time, he felt like it was not. Anything could be possible in this place of his. Thanks for watching. This is a more scuffed video because I had to redub everything in post. Oh, it took way too long and for nobody to watch this anyways, because this isn't unlocked mode. Wow.